Today I'm going to speak about the actions and their consequences. And in short, I'm going to talk about various types of actions that one may undertake while in this life. And before that, I would also like to talk about consequences. Karma is a complex word. Actually, in the Bhagwat Geeta, one of the reasons why it's difficult to understand is each word changes its meaning when it is used in a different context. So when you perform an action, when you see a word, Sanskrit word, like say karma, karma could mean action, karma could mean duty, karma could mean the consequence of that action, it could mean many things. So we will try to understand this. So first we will deal with the consequences, because consequences are very important. And the importance of the consequences of your action simply cannot be emphasized enough. For example, when you perform an action, rarely do you understand that this action is going to have a reaction. I've done this in very great detail over several lectures in the series. So those of you who would like to know greater details of the law of karma should refer to those recorded lectures which are available here on the videos of Speaking Tree. But this is just to summarize. To give you an example, there is what we call as prarabdha karma. There is what we call as sanchit karma. There is what we call as agama karma. And there is what we know as kriyamana karma. The first, of course, most important is your prarabdha. Your prarabdha is the karma that has come into fruition. It has come into fruition, it is borne fruit. And because it has borne fruit, you are seeing the consequences in your life. For example, the parents you're born to, the community you're born into, the land that you've taken birth in, all of these are part of your prarabdha. The genetic package which comes with your birth, the genetic package which controls your prakriti, this is also part of your prarabdha. The people who accompany you, your siblings, they are also part of your prarabdha. So prarabdha means those karmic actions which you have performed in the past. And having performed these karmic actions in the past, these actions have now grown to bear fruit. And having borne the fruit, you are now seeing the fruit of those actions in your lives. Basically, you have no control over them. They are beyond your control. To give you an example, you are looking over the fence of your garden and you're looking into your neighbor's garden. And you find that the neighbor has a beautiful Alfonso tree, and being mango season, the boughs, the branches of the tree are heavy with fruit, golden fruit. And your neighbor waves at you, and having waved at you, he goes to the tree and he plucks some mango. And plucking the mango, he smiles at you, knowing that you're watching him, and he bites into that mango. And with his teeth, he pulls off the skin and sucks the mango. And you're watching him from across the fence. And you see that this golden mango juice is running down his chin. And you can see the bliss and ecstasy on his face. And you say, hey, that's wonderful. I'd also like to do that. And thus you go to your tree and you pluck the fruit. It's also yellow in color because it's a lemon tree. And you take that lemon and you put it to your mouth and you bite into it. And again, the juice runs down your chin, but your face puckers up because you're getting the sour taste of lemon juice. You see, 12 years ago, your neighbor performed karma, which was the planting of a mango seed. And that mango seed today has borne him a mango tree and mango fruit. Takes about 12 to 15 years. Whereas you have done nothing of the sort, and you have only had a lemon tree planted in your garden, and thus you are trying to enjoy that lemon, but obviously it's not the same as a mango tree. This is prarabdha. You may not like where you're born, you may not like whether you're male or female, you may not like whether you have the genetic package you need, you might not like the looks you possess, or the health you have acquired, or the wealth of your family, but this is your prarabdha, this is what you're born into. As a child, you're born into a family which is the result of your prarabdha. Your genes are the result of your prarabdha. So there is a genetic package, and the genetic package states that your hair will turn gray at a particular age, that indeed you will have a heart attack at a particular age. It will tell you that you will, perhaps get cancer at this age and that you will die at this age. So that's a genetic package that you're born with. Similarly, you will have people around you who are also part of your prarabdha. You may not like your sister or your brother, but what to do? They're born as your siblings. You have to live with them. This is your prarabdha. You may not be happy with your choice of parents, but that's your prarabdha. You're born with those parents. So this is what is called prarabdha. And you should not think that you can change that prarabdha, because changing your prarabdha is very difficult. For example, you might think that perhaps I should change this lemon tree into a mango tree. And you come across some sadhu Babaji who comes and tells you, you give me so much money, I will bless you. You do this puja to the tree, walk around the tree 108 times, and then it will become a mango tree. And you do all that. And still, you have a lemon tree. And still, when you bite into it, the taste is sour. So please understand what is your prarabdha, and prarabdha is something that cannot be changed. This is called prarabdha karma. It is the visible karmic fruit of previous actions. Then you have what we call a sanchit karma. Sanchit karma are those seed karmas that are present in your mind. And those seed karmas are inchoate. They are unconscious. They are unexpressed. You are unaware of them. And because they are unconscious desires that are seeded in your mind, in your subtle body, you have no idea that they're there until something awakens them. So inside your subtle body, inside your mind, you're carrying a baggage of karmas. And some of these karmas you're not even aware of. And because you're not even aware of these karmas remain in an unsprouted state until there is a trigger. In the Bhagavad, there's an example given of a priest. And this priest was a very religious priest. After all, his living was to perform pujas and havans and yajnas for his different yajmanas, for his different clients and customers. And so indeed, he was living a life with his wife, his children, 2 children, and his parents. And one day while he was walking along the road, he happened to see a prostitute who was entertaining her customer in various innovative ways. So this priest, whose name was Ajamil, had no idea that such things could be done. And he followed this woman and he left his wife and children and he began to live with her. So indeed, we have seed karmas lying within us. And these seed karmas we don't even know lie there. So sometimes those seeds are awakened. And they're awakened suddenly by sight, suddenly by sound, suddenly by touch. And when these are awakened within us, these sanchit karmas sprout. These sanchit karmas need not sprout also. If you are not exposed to that, then for the whole lifetime you will never experience them. We have examples of families where, let us say, one of the father or the mother is an alcoholic, and the children take a vow never to drink. So there is a seed within them, a seed, an alcoholic gene. But because they never drink alcohol, that sanchit karma remains as a seed. So it's very important to understand that sometimes we perform actions and those actions sit deep within us, and they sit deep within us as a seed karma, waiting to sprout sometime in the future. Then we have what is known as agama karma. Agama karmas are those karmas which are about to sprout. Unlike seeds which may remain there and you will never become aware of them, agama karmas are those karmas which are waiting to sprout. And because they are waiting to sprout, all the time you feel within yourself that, no, I should be doing this. Oh, I should be doing that. And therein lies your future. Because agama karmas are those karmas that push you onward towards your destiny. You think you have control over the agama karmas, but in truth, you don't have control. Because to some extent, you have control, you can resist it, you can hold back. And there are other times when this agama karmas in an unguarded moment will push you into performing some action in the moment. The other type is known as kriyamana karma. Kriyamana karma is that karma which is a seed which has been planted now. So the actions that you are performing every day, where you have full choice, those actions where you have the choice on what you are going to perform, these are known as kriyaman karmas. And for this reason, you now will understand that through your Kriyaman karmas, you can choose those actions which are prescribed in the scripture. And when you perform those actions that are prescribed in the scripture, those actions will protect you, those actions will remind you of divinity, and those actions will give you fruit within this world. And then finally, we will go and try to understand how we can break free from karma. Because Bhagwat Gita is not a book about karma. Bhagwat Gita is really a karma busting book. In a country that was paralyzed by fear of karma, which came from the Shramana philosophies, which today are available to us as Jainism and Buddhism, the root religions that were the Shramana philosophies had paralyzed the society. Kings had given up ruling the kingdom. They had stopped using their armies to protect the land. And thus, people who became the subjects of invaders, especially from the northeast. And also, they became victims of thieves and robbers and thugs and various other marauders. Because they were afraid of the law of karma. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita appeared as a karma busting book to teach you how, by following in the footsteps of Lord Krishna and acting in a spirit of sacrifice and devotion to him, you can become free from all sorts of karma. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masucha. When Krishna is saying sarva dharman parityaja, he is really saying become free of all types of adharmic religion. And what adharmic religion? Those religions which are Shramana philosophies. And surrender unto me. And when you surrender unto me, I will save you from all sin, never fear. So what are the actions that have been laid down in the Vedas? And laid down in the Vedas, certain duties have been laid down. And thus there are many types of duties. All of them are known by the term karma because they are actions that need to be performed. And in order to perform those actions, we need to understand what they are. First is nitya karmas. Nitya karma means those karmas which are not only performed every day, but at regular intervals. This is called nitya karma. We will come back to this. Then we have what is called naimitic karmas. Means those actions or those duties which are not performed every day, but they're performed at important spiritual milestones in your life. I've already discussed this when I did one session on sanskaras, which also, if you have not heard, you should go back to the previous videos on sanskaras, which will be available in the Speaking Tree video section on sanskaras. These are naimitic karmas. And there are other naimitic karmas also, depending on desha, kala, patra, etc. For example, there are various types of naimitic karmas. Then there is what you call as kamya karmas. Kamya karmas are those which are not normally performed, but they are specially performed when you have certain special desires. For example, if you are very deeply desirous of a son or a daughter, but in this case it is called by the term putra, So to have that son, there is a special kamya karma that is performed. So like this, there are many pujas that are performed for having a child, for having a child of a particular sex, for acquiring wealth, for various things. There are definite karmas to be performed, certain yajnas, certain pujas, certain actions, and these are all known as kamya karmas. There is also what we know as nisheda karma. Nisheda karma means what are the actions which you should not perform. And the actions which you should not perform, for example, eating of flesh, taking of alcohol, taking intoxicants, right? Murdering somebody, robbing and thieving, setting someone's house on fire. These are all called nisheda karmas. Killing a priest. So these are all what we call as nisheda karma or forbidden actions. And because there are nisheda karmas which bring actually bad karmas onto you, evil karmas onto you, there is another set of karmas, and these set of karmas is called prayaschit karma. Prayaschit karma are those yajnas, those actions that are performed in order to free yourself from the pollution which you have brought about upon yourself. There are in prayaschit karmas, there are sadharan and asadharan. So sadharan means the routine prayaschit karmas, and asadharan means the terrible and horrific prayaschits that one has to perform. For example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciples, initial disciples, who became the Goswamis, the first two, they had given up their Hindu religion, and despite the fact they were born into a priestly family, and having given up the Hindu religion and becoming followers of Islam, they had become ministers of the Muslim king. And so when they were asked what prayaschit should be performed, because they became repentant at a later age, and they were told many prayaschits. One of them was that you take ghee, boil it until heat it until it boils, and then drink that boiling ghee. Truly, this is a horrible prayaschit. So they came to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to ask him, which is the prayaschit that we should perform? Because everyone is giving one more horrific than the other. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prescribed for them Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreyo Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. He advised him Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, the chanting of the names of God. Just like the cooling rays of the moon, this chanting of the holy name, it wipes the mind of all the bad karmas that you may have performed in the past. And it destroys all the prarabdha, all the sanchit karmas that are there, and gives you relief from the suffering caused by your prarabdha. In fact, Ajamil also later sought the priest I told you about, who left his wife and children and parents and went running after a prostitute. He also sought prayashchit. And he was also told that there are many types of prayashchit. But what is the use of performing a prayashchit karma when at the end of performing that prayashchit karma, you go back to performing the same actions again? But the beauty of chanting of the holy name is that it cleanses the mind, it cleanses the heart, it cleanses the subtle body, so that not only does the prayashchit clear the karma, but it also makes sure that that individual never goes back to performing such actions ever again. So there are many nitya karmas. They are variously classified. For example, some people classify taking of a bath or snan, then performing of your sandhya vandanam, which is performing your chanting of your Gayatri mantra 3 times a day. These are all considered to be your nitya karmas. But some have classified nitya karmas. And these nitya karmas have been classified into Daiva Yajna, Pitra Yajna, Bhuta Yajna, Atiti Yajna. So, what is Deva Yajna? Deva Yajna is the Dainik fire sacrifice which you perform to God. By the performance of this fire sacrifice to God, Bhagwat Geeta, Krishna says that you please the gods and the gods in turn will please you by giving you your needs and requirements to live within this world. So, if you please the gods are also pleased with you and they also give you all the material things that are necessary to live within this world. This is called Daiva Yajna. Then you have what is known as Pitra Yajna. In Pitra Yajna, you are actually required to please your ancestors. You can give tarpana or water to your ancestors who are in Pitralok so that they are not put into poo, which is a hell. You can also perform the Shraddha. So this is known as Pitra Yajna. There is Rishi Yajna. And what is Rishi Yajna? Rishi Yajna is spending some time every day reading the Shastras that have been put down by the Rishis. For example, Ved Vyas has put down the Mahabharata and the Bhagwat Geeta. So if you read Bhagwat Geeta every day for some time, this is called Rishi Yajna. Then there is what we call as Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna is for the ghosts and the spirits and the insects and birds and animals that are around you. That before you eat, you put a little food in a plate and you put it out for the birds, for the crows, for the sparrows, for the ants, for any animals that may be hungry and around. And they will be fed before you sit down to eat. And lastly, you have what we call as Atiti Yajna. Atiti Yajna means Atiti is a person who comes to your home uninvited, unasked, as a surprise. This is usually a saintly person or a holy person who comes to your house, whose only job is to enlighten people wherever he goes. And such a person is likely to come to people's houses wherever he is welcome. And he will come and you should treat him with respect and feed him. So this is called Atiti Yajna. So these are some of the Dainik Yajnas. These are some of the Nitya Karmas that are supposed to be performed. And by performing these, you are fulfilling your obligations to the gods, to your ancestors, to the rishis, to the saintly people, to the ghosts and spirits and animals and birds around you. Naimittic karmas I have already described in detail in the video on sanskara, so I will not go into greater detail. But these are sacraments that are performed at spiritual milestones in your life. before, when you get married, before you conceive a child, when the child is in the womb, at least on 2 separate occasions, pujas are performed, yajnas are performed, and so on and so forth. Then when the child goes to school, he is ready for learning, then he performs the thread ceremony. And like this, there are 3 or 4 of them that are performed in the educational period. Then when there is time for the child to get married, he's become a man. So the marriage is another sanskara, and so on and so forth, until finally at the time of death, at Antyeshti, there is what we call as the last of the karmas that are performed. So these are what we call as the nitya karmas. These are called then you have the naimitic karmas, which I've described. You also have what we call as the nishedha karmas, which I have told you are the karmas that need to be avoided. And the kamya karmas, where you perform if you want, you're especially desirous of some material wish which you have to get fulfilled. And then you have prashchit karmas. So there is one karma which is unique to the Bhagavad Gita. And that karma that is unique to the Bhagavad Gita is called the nishkama karma. Nishkama karma means that action which is without desire. So all the actions that we have discussed today, if these actions are now performed without desiring anything for yourself, if they are performed with the idea that they are for God, not for me, Om Tat Sat. If they are performed with the idea that, hey Bhagavan, this is a flower I'm offering at your feet, Krishna. So every action through your day you perform as an action at Krishna's feet. And at the end of the day, you pick up all those flowers, make them into a garland and put them around his neck. When you do that, you will find that the heavier that garland, the lighter your heart, and the lighter that garland, the heavier your heart. This is the law for nishkama karma. And Krishna says in the Bhagwat Gita, Yagnarthat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samacharaha. That one who performs all actions as an offering to God in a spirit of devotion and renunciation, such a person becomes free from all karmas. Whereas those who do not do things for God but for themselves, they incur karma. Therefore, it's very, very important to understand what Krishna wants us to do. Krishna wants us, he says in the Bhagavad Gita, that yat karoshi yad ashnasi yat johosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusham adarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever charities and whatever austerities you perform, everything do it for me. In fact, Krishna wants that your whole life should be a nishkam karma. It should be an unbroken series of nishkam karmas. Because this is called sannyas yoga. You may be living in the world, living with your family, doing your duties, raising your children, etc., etc. But if you're doing them nishkama, without having any selfish personal desire, then what you're doing is truly sannyas yoga. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that Yat karoshi yadashnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusham adarpanam. Shubha ashubha falayarevam moksha se karma bandhane. Sannyasa yoga yuktena vimukto mami vashyasi. If you are performing everything to me, you are living a life of sannyasa yoga, then indeed, Krishna says, that performing actions in this manner, you will come to me without fear. You will become free from karma. You will become free from birth and death. You will become free from suffering in this life as a Jivan Mukt, and you will become free from suffering in future lives as a Videha Mukt. And thus, you will come to peace, perfection, and the supreme destination. So with this, I will pause. If there are any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Yes, of course, sir. Good morning, sir. So I'll start with the question. Sir, can one really control the outcome of an action by choosing the way of responding?
I didn't follow what you're saying.
Yes, sir. It is, can one really control the outcome of an action by choosing the way of responding?
Every action in the world, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, is by God's consent. Tena vina tranamapi na chalati. Not a blade of grass moves without God's consent. We really have no real control over anything because everything is performed by God. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam hetunanena kaunteya jagadviparivartate. Clearly, Krishna points out that everything is performed by him. He says that prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. That you don't do anything, prakriti does everything. And in the earlier verse he has said that I am the controller of prakriti. So everything happens by God's consent. So therefore, don't be foolish. Do your best at the best time, but do not think that you seriously control anything. Everything is controlled by God through prakriti, including your own prakriti of body, mind, intelligence, and the elements.
Absolutely, sir. So with that, moving to other. So can we say that Prashchit karma is a way to change the effect of our previous actions?
Pardon?
So can we say that Prashchit karma is the
Yes.
way to change the effect of our previous actions?
See, if those actions have already borne fruit, like you have prarabdha, and you're presently suffering your prarabdha, by chanting Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, right? You will mitigate your suffering. You will relieve yourself of suffering. On the other hand, if it is an action which has not yet come, it's a sanchit karma, then by chanting the same mantra, you will find that those seeds will be roasted, they will be unlikely to sprout. Similarly, you can bring a check on your agama karmas, and your kriyaman karmas can be dedicated to Krishna so that there is no repetition of karma in your life.
Exactly. So there are many actions sometimes we are not aware of what result they will bring. So for example, like in Ramayana, when Raja Dashrath accidentally or mistakenly killed Shravan Kumar. So even though Raja did not want to,
No, let's not get into that.
Okay.
Because if a person goes hunting, he is going to kill something. So it's not impossible that he will kill another human being, because that desire to kill is still within him.
Exactly. Yes.
So don't say that people are not likely to, don't want to commit sin. You're picking up a weapon and you're going to kill.
Yes.
So that weapon which you're picking up and going to kill will kill somebody.
A life is going to be taken.
So then that desire to kill itself is the sin. Who you kill is separate.
Absolutely, sir. So with that, moving to today's last question. So every karma brings us into the cycle of life and death. So can we say that does Nishkam karma bring us out of it?
Yes, Nishkam karma is there to pull you out of
Hmm.
cycle of karma and birth and death.
Hmm.
All actions that are performed is an offering to God, which are not for self,
Hmm.
which are actions to remember God and forget self.
Hmm.
These are actions that nullify karma, that make you free from karma, and lift you out of this cycle of birth, death, old age, suffering, disease, misfortune.
All right. So thank you so much, sir, for such an amazing session. We will
So,
see
Hari
you.
Om, Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna, sir. Thank you so much.